Hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. I am so sorry for my 4 weeks of silence. I have had quite a lot going on in my life. I went on my holiday and things have just been busy, which is obviously really good, but I haven't had loads of time to make videos, so I'm really sorry for that. I have got loads of plans coming up this summer, so I don't really know how active I can be, but welcome, and I hope you enjoy this video. As you already know by the title, we are going to be going through my May books, so without further ado, let's get into it. We have quite a lot to get through. I actually read 13 books this month. And they're not all here. Most of them I read on my Kindle, but I do have some physical copies. So let's go through. I'm just going to go through in chronological order because I feel like that makes the most sense. So the first book, or I guess it was an audiobook that I read in May, is called No One Sort of Thing by Andrea Mara. And that is a thriller. And it's basically about this couple who go to London on holiday. They're Irish. They go to London on holiday so that the husband or the boyfriend, whatever he is, I don't know if they're married or not, he can meet up with his old school friends. So they kind of have like a big reunion in London. And the mum, I can't remember her name now, Sive is her name. Sive takes her 2 kids on the tube to go meet, I think, some of her friends there. And then the kids get on the tube, the door's shut, and the mum, Sive, is just on the other side of the door, and then obviously the train leaves. Now, anybody who lives in London has seen this happen at least once, not with kids, but with adults, where there's a couple, someone's running for the tube, one of them gets on and one of them gets left behind on the platform. Like, honestly, it happens all of the time, which is why I felt like this thriller felt so real, and that was what made it so much more enjoyable as well, because genuinely, if we take out the plot twists and like the scary stuff that happened in the book, because I feel like that's not really that realistic, but the fact that her kids got on the tube and she didn't, that could happen to anybody. Like, it happens all of the time, like you always see it. So that was what made that so scary and almost feel so real. But the other thing that was so good about this book as well is that it had so many good plot twists. Like, you genuinely just didn't see it coming, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was amazing. I would definitely recommend listening to it or giving it a read if you love thrillers. I actually rated this one 4 stars out of 5. So next up, and the first physical book that I read this month, is The Perfect Son by Frida McFadden. So this book is about Erica Cass, who has 2 children, and one of her children is called Liam. She's always suspected something is a little bit different about him, like he's not quite the same as other children his age. And then a high school girl from his class goes missing and the police suspect that it's Liam. So this story then follows Erica trying to uncover the truth about what happened. I'm going to start off by saying this is definitely not my favourite Frida book at all. Like, I just found that the writing was really clunky. It just wasn't that gripping. And normally with a Frida book, she's got amazing twists that you just don't predict. But I predicted what was going to happen very early on. And I don't feel like it really had that, like, extra twist at the end. Like, it just felt kind of bland, which seems, oh, it just sounds so mean to say, but I really just did not enjoy it as much as other books by Frida. There was also a plot twist in this at one point, kind of like in the middle of the book, which was really interesting and had so much potential, but it just didn't go anywhere. And I feel like if she'd have gone with that, it would have been so good, but she didn't. So yeah, I rated this one 3 stars out of 5. It just wasn't my favorite. Next, I started the reread of The Serpent and the Wings of Night. So last year I read the first 2 books in the Crowns of Nyaxia series, and it was just so much fun. So because of the new release in August, I decided I wanted to start the reread. Now, in hindsight, I have started the reread way too early, so I'm not going to read any more books now until we get closer to the release date, because I want to be able to binge it, and I'm flying through this series so quickly. I read this book for the first time last year and I loved it, and that was absolutely the case with the second time that I read this book. I don't know what she puts in this book, but I just loved it. I completely ate it up. Like, it was just so good. I am obsessed with this world, the characters. I just love them so much. I don't even know what else to tell you because it was so good. Oh yeah, so I actually forgot to explain what the book is about, but the book is basically following Aurea, who is the adopted human daughter of the Nightborn Vampire King, and she's grown up in this world where everyone's trying to kill her, so she's always lived like a very guarded life, but she's obviously wants to be safe and protected. She enters these trials called the Kijari, and that is how she will be able to win the respect from the other vampires. So she ends up making an alliance while she's in these trials with somebody called Rain, and he is a vampire, someone who's really dangerous and is like one of her biggest competitors in these trials. So by the end of the trials, there's like a start of a war within like the kingdom that they're in. I'm reading off a fable, by the way, because I don't really know how to explain what happens in this book without giving spoilers, so I'm trying to like read it without giving you spoilers. So yeah, so there's a war that starts, and then she basically finds out loads of things that kind of crushes what she thought was true about where she lives. And then yeah, so that was a really terrible explanation of what this book is about, but if you haven't read it yet and you love fantasy, read this book because it's 10 out of 10. The next book I read was The Conditions of Will by Jessa Hastings. So in this book we meet Georgia, and she is estranged from her family living in London but originally from South Carolina in the States, and one day she gets this text saying, oh, dad's dead. So then she ends up going back to South Carolina for her dad's funeral, and then uncovering some kind of secrets of her dad's past. She ends up connecting with her brother's AA sponsor, and they end up having a little bit of a thing, but she's kind of worried about that because she knows that her brother kind of fancies him too, so it's a little bit awkward and she's trying to navigate that. I have to say, and I feel like this might be a bit of an unpopular opinion, I didn't love this. I really wanted to love it because I absolutely adored Magnolia Parks and I think it's the best series in the world, but I didn't get the same vibe from this book, and I will say I do think that the majority of that is down to the fact that my expectations were super high going into this book because of the amount that I loved Magnolia Parks. I wanted it to be that kind of vibe, I wanted it to give me that feeling, and it just didn't. I think the romance part of this book felt really rushed to me and just really unrealistic. And what I loved about Magnolia Parks was that, okay, it's a bit crazy and like probably doesn't happen in the real world, but the way that she wrote the characters and the way that she wrote the storyline and the plot, it felt real. And I didn't get that from this. And I'm sorry to say it, I feel like that might upset a few people, but I just didn't love it. I just didn't. And yeah, there's not really much more I can say on that. I'm gutted because I really wanted to love it, but I just didn't. And I'm sorry to all of the Jessa Hastings fans, but she has said she's releasing a new book, so I'm excited to read that one, and I won't go into it with as high expectations this time. I ended up rating this one 3.75 stars because it wasn't a bad book, and obviously classic Jessa style, like it was written beautifully, but there was just parts of it that didn't really do it for me. And then I couldn't wait any longer. I had to dive back into the Crowns of Nynaxia series, and I read the novella of Six Scorched Roses. And this was a very short book, and I loved it. Like, I loved it more than I expected to, because originally I thought this was going to be a novella that very closely linked to the first book and the second book. It doesn't, so just pre-warning you, if you haven't read this series, the novella isn't completely necessary and you don't have to read this, but I recommend that you do because it was absolutely stunning. This book follows Vale and Lilith, I think that's how you say her name. I think it's Lilith. And Lilith is a human and she lives in a town that is kind of cursed by a god. And Vale is a vampire and he lives in a house on the outskirts of this town. So Lilith then goes to Vale to ask for help because this town is cursed and people keep dying. She wants to save the town basically. So then it kind of like blossoms into a bit of a romance story. This compared to The Serpent and the Wings of Night. The Serpent and the Wings of Night is a very fast paced. There's a little bit of romance in it, but it's more of a slow burn and the romance isn't the main part of the plot. However, with Six Scorched Roses, it's much more slow paced, it's more romantic, and it is absolutely beautiful. I rated this 4.5 stars and you need to read it ASAP. To stop myself finishing the Crowns of Nynaxia series way too early, I picked up Frida McFadden's newest release, The Tenant. This was on Kindle Unlimited, which I was actually really surprised of because it was a new release. I don't know if that normally happens, but I feel like it doesn't. So this book is basically about a couple and they live in this brownstone house in New York. I'm not gonna lie, I'm from the UK, so I don't understand what a brown house looks like or what that is in New York. So if anybody could give me a description, that would be great, because this whole time I was reading this book, I didn't know what I was picturing. picturing. I was honestly just picturing like a brown house. Like, I don't know if that's what it is, but that's what I pictured. So anyway, we have a couple who live in the house, and the main character, oh, I can't remember his name now, but, oh, that was an interesting point actually. This book is written from the male point of view, which we don't normally get in Frida books, so that was quite refreshing and it was quite nice. But anyway, so we have him. I think his name is Will, but I actually could be wrong there. So he has this high-flying job as like a VP in marketing, and he ends up losing his job by something that he's like, that wasn't my fault, I didn't do that. So he loses his job, and then him and his girlfriend Krista decide that they need to bring in a tenant. So in comes Whitney. When Whitney moves into the house, things start going wrong. Like, he suddenly has really bad allergic reactions to his laundry detergent, and all of this stuff keeps happening. So then naturally, obviously, what is his name? It's gonna annoy me. Oh my God, his name is Blake. Anyway, Blake then obviously blames Whitney for all of this stuff that's going on. This, again, wasn't my favourite Frida book. Like, it felt rushed to me, and it was also really, really predictable. Like, I actually predicted the ending way before, like, right at the beginning, I kind of predicted it, which was kind of annoying because, yeah, I just didn't love it. But the second plot twist, I didn't guess, although that did feel a little bit ridiculous and felt like it kind of came out of nowhere for me. If you've read this book, you might know what I mean. So I didn't love that aspect of it. However, it did make me laugh in places, and it was highly entertaining. It was super bingeable, just like most Frida books are. I mean, let's be honest, her books aren't always the best, but they do bring you good entertainment and they can be really fun. So I rated this one 3 stars. The next book that I read on my Kindle is called Murder Board by Alicia Lloyd. I think it's either Alicia or Alicia. I haven't really worked that one out. It hasn't got a picture because it was just an EHUB file or EPUB file. I don't really know. When they send it to you by email. So this was really interesting. This is basically about some detectives that go to solve a murder, and they go into this house, and then they end up having to play these board games. They're organised by someone to try and figure out the truth of what happened. Now, this book is written by a really young girl. I think she's like 16 or 17. So with that in mind, this book was really interesting. It was so unique in its plot. It just had a really unique idea. Like, I've not read any thrillers like that before, or mystery. I think it's like a thriller mystery. The writing style wasn't the best. It did feel a little bit too descriptive, and we didn't get much character, like, we didn't really learn much about the characters as we go through the story, but considering she's such a young author, it was amazing. So I rated it 3.5 stars. After that, I absolutely had to dive back into the Crowns of Nyaxia series. So I read The Ashes of the Star-Cursed King. So initially, last year when I read this book, I read books 1 and 2 because I don't think the novellas actually existed back then, or if they did, I didn't know about them. So when I first read this book last year, I didn't love it. I felt it was really slow. I don't know why. Because the second time I read it, insane. Literally 5 stars. I couldn't find a single thing wrong with this book. I absolutely loved it. Like 10 out of 10. Oh, I just loved it. I love the development from book 1 into book 2, and reading the novella, even though it wasn't like directly linked to this book, I did kind of love it when Vale and Lilith made appearances, because I was like, oh, I kind of understand them a bit more now. So I absolutely adored it. It was incredibly fast paced. I was honestly just like reading, like turning the pages, like I just couldn't stop. We also had a few interlude chapters in this book, so we kind of went back in time a little bit, and they added so much more to the characters and also to the plot. Like, I feel like I really got a better understanding of the world and the characters from that, and oh my god, I just loved it. If you can't tell already, I absolutely loved it. But that was the end of my reading for the Crowns of Nyaxia series in this month, because as I said before, I'm trying to long it out now until August. And then I went on holiday, so the holiday read started, and this is the first book that I started and finished on holiday, and it's called Live, Ranch, Love by Emma Lucy. So I'm actually really excited about this one because this is my first ever book that has been sent to me from a publisher, so I was already really excited about it. But I loved it. I thought it was great. So in this book we have the main character called Rory, and she is a wellness influencer, and then she inherits a farm in America, and she meets Wyatt Hensley, who is the head rancher there. Now, obviously for her, she's like, well, I just want to sell this ranch and get back to my life in London. But when she gets there, things don't quite turn out how she planned, and she realizes she actually doesn't have that much to go back for. So then her and Wyatt kind of come up with a new idea for the ranch. So then it kind of follows those two getting to know each other and their new plans for the ranch. This was just such a fun, like, holiday read. Like, it was absolutely perfect for holiday. If you've got a holiday coming up, highly recommend. It's just a fun cowboy romance. It's not like too much to it. It's just fun. I don't really know what else to say other than I had a great time reading this book, and I think you should read it too. I rated it 4 stars. The next book I picked up on holiday is called The Wrong Sister by Claire Douglas. I actually bought this in the airport because I realized I bought loads of romance books with me, and I was like, I need to switch it up a little bit. So this is a thriller, and it's basically about this girl called Tasha, and she looks a lot like her sister Alice, but they have very different lives and very different lifestyles. So one day Alice offers to look after the kids while Tasha and her boyfriend, I think it's her husband, go and stay in Alice's holiday home in Italy. So they go for a weekend away to celebrate their anniversary. However, something happens at home. Alice ends up in hospital, and Alice's boyfriend Kyle ends up dead. And then she gets a note addressed to Tasha saying, "It was supposed to be you." This was amazing. I love thrillers like this. It was just so creepy, but so well done. And the plot twist was insane at the end. I genuinely did not see that coming at all. Like, it was so crazy. This was brilliant, really well written as well, 100%. Like, I really think you should read this if you haven't, if you love thrillers. Give it a go because it was a really good one. I rated it 4 stars. The last of the holiday reads was Meet Me at the Lake by Carly Fortune. This is the first book that I've ever written. I didn't write this book. This is the first book that I've ever read by Carly Fortune, and oh my god, guys, amazing. So this book is about Fern, and when she was younger at university, she meets this guy called Will Baxter, and they spend 24 hours together. They have the best time, they really get on, but the timing isn't great. So they decide that they will meet 1 year later. Fern shows up, but Will doesn't. So then at 32, Fern's life isn't going that great, and she ends up back on her mother's, they have like a hotel resort, so she ends up living back there and doing everything, and her ex-boyfriend is the manager. So then she needs to get help in to help her turn around the resort because it's not doing that well, and for her surprise, it's Will that comes to help out at the resort. So then it just kind of follows them getting to know each other again, and we also get a dual timeline, so we also go back in time and see what happened on the day that Fern and Will met. This was honestly such a beautiful, I'm actually getting goosebumps like just thinking about it because it was such a beautiful story, and I absolutely loved it. I think this is my favorite book that I have read this year so far because it was just so wonderful. Like, I don't even know what to say about it because it was just so good. The writing is incredible. I love that we got to go back in time to see young Will and Fern and see what was going through their minds. I just absolutely thought it was amazing. Like, genuinely, there isn't even much to say other than it was incredible, and you need to read this book if you love a romance. I actually cried at the ending, and the ending wasn't even sad, so that just tells you everything that you need to know. Obviously, this was a 5-star read, but if I could have rated it more than 5 stars, I would. After that really wonderful and beautifully written story, I ended up reading another Frida book, which is called Ward D. So many people love this book, so I really wanted to read it after not loving the last 2 Frida books that I read. This one is about the female main character. I think she's called Amy. She is a student nurse and she does rotations in different parts of the hospital. My camera's about to die. I'm back. So she ends up in rotation on a psychiatric ward, but it's an overnight shift and it's a locked psychiatric ward. So that means that overnight it's completely locked. Like, you can't just leave, you have to enter in a code. So that's basically about her night in the psychiatric ward. Now this felt like a Frida book. This was so good. So many plot twists, so many twists and turns that you don't expect. It was really creepy as well. I don't know what it is with me reading creepy thrillers at the moment, but so good. Like, I kind of love it. This was really, really good. It was just really easy to read, super bingeable, as Frida's books always are, but it was just so, like, the plot twist was just so good. Like, I genuinely did not predict that and I didn't see it coming. So this is now moved up to my favourite Frida McFadden book. So highly recommend Ward D if you've not read it already. And then the last book that I have read in May is called The Woman in the Cabin by Becca Day. I don't think I've read anything else by Becca before. but this was really, really good. So this is basically about the female main character Mary, who lives in a cabin in the middle of nowhere, like the Scottish Highlands, with her husband Cal, and they have a very traditional husband and wife relationship. So Cal goes out to work and Mary stays at home to do all of the house stuff, all of the cleaning, the cooking, that kind of thing. And it's been like that for their whole relationship basically. And then one day Mary's in the bedroom and she sees something doesn't look quite right with the floorboards, or she finds a note from the previous woman who lived in the cabin. This, again, so bloody creepy, but I think this might be the creepiest book that I read this month out of all of the creepy thrillers that I seem to have picked up. This is by far the creepiest one. It was just so scary. I think because of the isolated setting, like the fact that it was in the middle of the Scottish Highlands, like there wasn't anybody around, it just made it so creepy, but so good. If you like a scary thriller, read this one. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was really good and I rated it 4 stars. And that is it for all of my May reads. My favourite book of the month is definitely Meet Me at the Lake, and then closely followed is going to be the Serpent and the Wings of Night series. I've had quite a good reading month, I would say, especially because I was on holiday, so I could really dedicate like a week to reading, which is my favourite type of holiday, by the way. I am such a reading by the beach or reading by the pool kind of holiday person. I absolutely love it. So yeah, I've had a really great month. Comment down below what your favourite book is that you read in May. I would love to know, and maybe I'll add it to my TBR. So currently reading, because obviously now we're in June. So the book that I'm currently reading is called One Last Shot by Betty Kayouette. My boyfriend and me went book shopping at the weekend and he said he wanted to do like a little challenge and he was gonna choose a book, and I wasn't allowed to know anything about the book until we've left the shop. So he bought this book for me and he did a really good job. I'm actually really enjoying it so far. So in this book we have a supermodel called Emerson, and she has like the perfect life, but she's looking for love in all of the wrong places, and she gets a reminder on her phone one day of a marriage pact that she made with her childhood best friend Theo, that if they weren't married by 28 then they were going to get married. And I just love that so much. Like the friends to lovers trope is honestly my favorite one ever, so I was really excited when he chose this. So we're basically now, I am page 96, so this much I've read. I'm in the middle of a chapter actually because I wanted to film this video while it was still light outside. I'm really loving it so far. It's really good. Right now they're just like reconnecting their relationship, and yeah, I'm loving it. I'm really enjoying it. So this is the first book that I'm going to read in May. June, we're in June now. The second book that I definitely need to read, let me go get it. So the only other book, as I was saying a minute ago, that I actually have planned to read is Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez, because we are reading this as part of my book club. So you need to go and join my book club on Fable if you haven't already and read this book with us. I'm so excited for this because I've only read one of Abby Jimenez's books before, but I absolutely adore her writing. I think she's great. And apparently this is the first book in a new series of hers. So I'm very excited to read it, which I'm quite glad about as well, because I haven't read Part of Your World and Yours Truly, but I have read Just for the Summer. And I was really upset when I figured out like Just for the Summer was the third book in a series, but you can read them all standalone anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But I'm really excited to pick this up. To be honest, I don't have any other set plans to read anything else this month. I'm kind of in the mood for just mood reading, just picking up whatever I fancy whenever I fancy it, to be honest. So I have no other plans for June. But thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!